So let's kick off with the first article today, which is, does the age of your company determine your work from home strategy? So this was a post on LinkedIn. It was from Nick Bloom, who I did message last week after our chats about Home Depot, and he did answer. So thank you, Nick. I'm very appreciative of that. But he did a post on LinkedIn about work from home and company age. The data shows work from home is 50% higher in firms founded in the last 10 years and 25% higher with CEOs under 30. There is a disconnect between the old and the new. So folks whose careers have been built pre-pandemic wanted the return to the 5-day office work, while those under 40 want hybrid or remote in their firms. Interestingly, he goes on to say there's a similar split in AI adoption. Younger CEOs and firms were rapidly adopting AI, older ones more doubtful. The split is also in the data. It suggests as younger managers and firms grow, work from home and AI will rise in importance. So my question for our discussion is this simply a case of generational divide in terms of organizational design and culture?
I want to know first, does Nick know that he is sort of this pseudo guest celebrity on Frequency?
No, I didn't say that. I just asked him.
I bet we've talked about the work and his point of view and all that. I'm going to guess in probably 6 to 8 episodes.
Yeah.
Like he keeps coming back up for all of the right reasons. I think what's interesting to me about this one is going into more of the research. It talked about there's this promotion penalty. So part of this trial that he did found that remote workers were 50% less likely to get promoted. So I'm curious then about if younger firms are offering more work from home, does that also creating this weird invisible ceiling for people at their roles? And the other part that stuck out to me too is I think it's very easy to label this generationally, to think through like, oh, old believes this, young believes this. But I think it's also worth talking about the power in the infrastructure that goes into this conversation, because Bloom also noted that CEOs, which in the data, especially men in their 50s, they experience the office very differently from everyone else. So the way they relate to people in the office is very different than everyone else does, which might explain why that generational element is there. But I think it's worth calling out also the power and the infrastructure that's part of that. Because also it's probably pretty great when you're the CEO and in the office. That's probably a really great feeling to have all these people around you. The other part that stood out to me too was this parallel between work from home and AI, where the younger firms, younger CEOs with higher work from home rates are also adopting AI faster. So is this creating another gap? We talk about this AI gap. Is this creating another gap that we see in the workplace?
So I think there's a couple of things for me in this. I don't necessarily like the generational divide thing. So we've spoken before about that generation piece, because I think it's not linked to that necessarily. I think what this is linked to is possibly a bit of an empathy gap in leadership. So this is something I've been talking about while I've been doing my credibility work with leadership teams, is making sure that we're being aware of empathy and how that is believing someone else's lived experience regardless of your own. To your point of the office is a different experience for the CEOs, are we leading with empathy? Are we recognizing that it is a different experience and then what that looks and feels like? And I think that's probably one of those practices that needs a bit more work in certain areas. I think any let me jump in. Any company that is mandating 5 days in the office is not leading with any empathy whatsoever. Let's be clear about that. Yeah. I also think that this sort of alignment between the office and the AI and this ability to test and do new things, for me, that feels more like your appetite for risk or the unknown or any of those things around change, right? I think there is something of, I remember how it used to be and that was great, versus I don't have any frame of reference, so I'm just going to try stuff. And I think that is more the difference. Like if you didn't have that company before the pandemic or you didn't work in that environment, you've got no frame of reference to go back to say, but this was great and this is brilliant and this was this. So therefore you're more willing and open to try new stuff. And I think the AI piece is more your appetite for innovation and things that are different and risk. And I do think maybe not generationally, but I wonder if the older you get, the more comfortable we get in our ways. I feel seen, and how that means that you're not as willing to try, new things or do different stuff. I mean, we've talked a lot about the comfort that people have in terms of being at home and the inconvenience that is a good thing that happens when you're prioritizing seeing your friends or maybe going to the office and some of those things. And I think there's a reluctance to do that the older you get, I think.